All right, it looks like it's been leaked what's going to happen this upcoming season. On the recent Hoop Collective podcast, Tim MacMahon, who is very locked in with the Utah Jazz front office, who called all these different things that would happen to Lauri Markkanen, he had some interesting things to say about what the Jazz are going to do this upcoming season and how they're going to go for Cooper Flagg.
Yeah, I will say that, the Jazz are now sort of in the same situation that they've been the last few years, which is they are not a playoff team, but they are not at the very bottom.
I would tell you to look at the Western Conference, and again,
I'm not talking about the West. I'm talking about the race for Cooper Flagg.
We'll see. I think there's a decent chance that Lauri might have some minor ailments pop up throughout the course of the season.
So you're saying he just got $24 million and he doesn't even have to play full time? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying I think that the Jazz will end up being fairly well positioned in the Cooper Flagg sweepstakes.
Well, what I'm saying is this is what they have done this several years in a row now, where they start the season kind of not at the very bottom, and then they make maneuvers during the season and they wind up with the 7th, 8th, or 9th or whatever pick. They don't end up with the other, the better chances at the high pick. And aren't they setting themselves up to do the exact same thing again?
They're a bottom 2 team in the West. I think they'll end up being like a bottom 5 or 6 team in the league, with the flatter lottery odds. I think they're going to be pretty well positioned in this lottery. And I can tell you right now, they're not going to have to worry about whether they're giving up this year's pick, which is top 10 protected Oklahoma City. that pick ain't going to Oklahoma City this year.
I do think Brian's point is valid, though, in that if they really picked a direction here in general with what they've been doing. They got a bunch of veterans under long-term deals. They've now signed Lauri to this deal after obviously there was a lot of talk about him possibly being traded. It just still does feel like they're kind of stuck in the middle between trying to build around this guy or trying to cash in all the chips and trade. Basically the same situation the Brooklyn Nets were in. They traded they traded Mikal Bridges for a ton of stuff, picked a direction. Jazz still feel like they haven't made that step yet.
Yeah, the big difference is Brooklyn didn't have its own draft capital until they had to go back and get it. And, the Jazz, aside from this top 10 protected pick, do. Look, I think that you're going to see player development be the priority this year in Utah. I think you're going to see young guards get a whole lot of minutes. And, right now, Jordan Clarkson and Colin Sexton are on the roster. I am not so sure that'll be the case after the deadline. We'll see.
So a lot of interesting points there, but some major ones are that Lauri Markkanen is going to get some ailments during the season. It's very clear that Utah is going to rest him multiple times this season. Whether it's if he has even the slightest chance of an injury, they rest him and probably rest him for weeks, 2 weeks at a time. We've seen that happen the last 2 seasons with Lauri Markkanen, especially the last half of the season with the Jazz when they were trying to lose games to improve their draft position. We'll probably see him miss some back ends of a back-to-back, especially on the road. Utah is not interested in winning a lot of games this season. They have Lauri Markkanen for 5 years. 5 years, no player option at the end. He is locked in, and Lauri Markkanen has said he is all in on the future of this team. MacMahon mentions that they have Lauri Markkanen as part of their long-term plan. Well, Cooper Flagg is the plan. And so if Lauri Markkanen is okay with it, then that's great. But it's going to take those types of things to keep him rested so that the young players can develop. And that's the other thing MacMahon mentions is the Jazz will be playing the young guys. Keontae George, Isaiah Collier, Cody Williams, Kyle Filipowski, who just signed a new contract. Those players are going to get a lot of minutes. It is going to be great for their development. They'll go through their lumps. That's what you want your rookies to do. They have to play and they have to be shown that the team believes in them, but it will also lead to the losses. And MacMahon mentions in that clip that the Jazz expect to be at bottom 5 or 6 in the lottery. And if the Jazz can jump in the lottery and get to Cooper Flagg, it changes the franchise forever. And if you have him on the team, or Ace Bailey, or Dylan Harper, or anyone like that, and you can put them with Lauri Markkanen, you're in a great spot. And then it'll be interesting to see what happens the season following if the Jazz do a lot of the same thing. And MacMahon mentions that Colin Sexton, Jordan Jordan Clarkson and some of these veterans, John Collins, probably not on the team after trade deadline. Utah is going to do what they can to trade those players so they lose even more games. But the important thing for this season is the Utah Jazz have to be on top of this from the beginning. The Jazz have to be on top of it. They have to be a bottom 5 team for the long-term future. And if they can do that, if they can win the Cooper Flagg sweepstakes and combine him with Lauri Markkanen, Cooper Flagg is the future star of USA basketball. He is going to be a multi-all-NBA player in this league. And if he's on the Jazz, that's going to be freaking awesome. And I want it. I want it bad. How bad do you want it? Let me know in the comments. Guys, like and subscribe to the channel, especially if you're a Jazz fan. I'll talk to you next time.